Hello gamers. I thought it would be fun to do a little tier list format video. Obviously it's not like an actual tier list, like power ranking tier list, but I just think this format is nice for like conveying general ideas. And so I want to talk about who I'm looking forward to in Snezhnaya and who I really want to pull. Very similar to another video I did not too long ago when the Snezhnaya preview dropped, but that was before we knew anything about the characters. That was strictly off of just like appearance and vibes. We still don't know a lot, but also since then my perspective has kind of been shifting and I kind of want to try something different in Snezhnaya. It's going to be really hard for me to do this because the playstyle that I really like and that I really appreciate playing Genshin for is just having a bunch of team archetypes. And so this is aligns perfectly with horizontal investment, so just getting a bunch of different team archetypes. I think for Snezhnaya, I kind of want to do a little bit less horizontal investment and a little bit more vertical investment. And I'm going to try and pick a character that I really like and I think they're fun to play, and possibly go for like, their C1 or their R1, whatever ends up being, good in the situation. Or maybe get a C1 or R1 for some sort of support character, right? That is something I've never really done before. I've usually only been a horizontal investor for the whole time I've played this game. I've just prioritized getting a bunch of different types of teams instead of vertically investing into one or two. So this is going to be a little bit different for me, but I still, at the end of the day, I do like having a lot of archetypes, so I will try to include as many archetypes as I can, but I still want to do this new idea for me, at least, of trying to vertically invest instead of horizontally invest. And I'll link this tier maker in the description if you want to do it yourself, if you're like me and you just like sort of doing stuff like this for fun. Anyways, let's just start. Let's talk about Vodians. I'm just gonna go in order from how I dragged them in here. So Vodians, we've had some information leak about Vodians, right? However, I'm kind of taking a lot of it with a grain of salt right now because, just 2 weeks ago they were calling her like a Skirk support, and then a week ago she's becoming like a Stellar Swirl support. We know for a fact she's Hydro, and so it's like, okay, well, if the most recent leak is saying she's a Stellar Swirl support and she's also a Hydro, that just feels really weird to have a Stellar Swirl support be a Hydro character, like not even a part of the reaction that she's buffing. Very strange stuff going on, right? So I'm taking all of this with a grain of salt. I'm going to kind of just put it to the side for now, but knowing that she is probably a Hydro support character, I'm kind of thinking like, dude, I have enough of these, I have enough Hydro support characters. So I'm leaning a little bit on the, if I have to, if she ends up being really good for a team that I like, then maybe I'll get her on a rerun. It isn't really like fully piquing my interest. So that's how I feel about Vodians right now. But in terms of like design and appearance in the story, kind of like her vibe. I think she's pretty cool. She is like a performer, another Hydro performer, by the way. But yeah, I like her vibe. Just again, not really fully piquing my interest. Let me think about Aliosha. In the latest beta versions, and it's getting pretty late into the beta now, he got nerfed to the ground. Like he's not useless or anything, but he did get nerfed into the ground. I still think he's really cool. I like his vibe, I like his design, I like the little wolf companion that he has, but after seeing some of these nerfs, he is definitely like not exciting me as much as he was before. But again, Aliosha is, I think he's kind of one of those characters where I'm not really going out of my way to get him anyways, him being a 4-star. I feel like he'll just be there, he'll just come along with whoever else I'm deciding to get. Because again, it's not really like I'm looking out to pull him specifically. I'm not excited to get him. If he shows up, that's great. I'm going to put him here. I know it kind of doesn't really make sense, but it would feel bad to put him here. So now Odette. If you watched my original video, you know how I feel about Odette. I don't know what it is. Something about the animations and her design and her vibe and her having this sort of like double life double agent vibe. I think she's working for the Fatui, and then she's also like a ballerina. I don't know. It's just coming off so cool to me. This is kind of a thing where it's like, I feel like I'm just gonna pull her and it doesn't really matter. Like if she's good or bad, or if she gets superseded very quickly, I don't care. I just want her, you know? It's one of those moments. We got Valerie. Valerie is in the same boat as Vodianitsa, where I feel like the information we have about him has been kind of all over the place. The most recent being that he's going to be a stellar on-field stellar conduct support, which is a very interesting role to have, I will say. On-field support, not a very common role. When I think of on-field support, I'm more thinking of like characters like Nahida in Hyperbloom teams. Like in some Hyperbloom teams, you're playing Nahida on field. In some like Lunar Charge teams or Electro Charge teams, you're playing Sucrose on field. If he's anything like that, I'll be honest, I do like characters like that. Characters that are sort of on-field drivers, on-field supports. They themselves aren't really contributing much damage, but they are just enabling the rest of the team to do a bunch of damage. I do kind of like that role, and so I'm kind of thinking I'll pull if there is synergy. If he ends up being really good on teams with like Odette or on teams with characters that I already have, then I'm pretty interested. And in terms of his design, not really. Design itself doesn't strike me as anything interesting to me personally, but I do think the whole vibe that he has going with like the bear, I don't know how that's going to be implemented into his animations, but very like looking forward to see how it is, because it's probably going to be sick, right? Then we have Vzna. I think that's her name. Vzna? Vesna's a weird one. So Vzna, like from appearance and vibe, it's extremely animo coded. No, like she has wings. Is that actually her linchpin right there? I think that's a animo linchpin. Okay, yeah, I'm brain dead. This is literally an animo stellar linchpin. Just straight up on... I don't know why, but I didn't even notice. Okay, yeah. Anyways, confirmed animo. If it's a animo character with a stellar linchpin, it's almost certainly going to be a stellar swirl, either support or DPS. The early information I've seen about her leans more towards like a very mobile DPS, which is interesting. I've heard some people draw comparisons to Chaska, which is interesting as well. I think mobility in games is really fun. Not only something that has great use in overworld, but also has like pretty deep skill expression. And so even though like off of first impressions, I didn't really like her vibe and sort of like her personality, the way she portrayed herself in the Snezhnaya teaser, I think hearing all the information I'm hearing about like, you know, her being a very mobile, like stellar swirl DPS, of course, all, you know, take all of it with a grain of salt. This is making me have a lot more interest in her. I mean, she does have wings, so her being mobile would make sense. And I think because of this, I think this is definitely a will pull if there is synergy. I'm a lot more intrigued by her than I was before. So yeah, I think I'm putting her a lot higher up than before. And now we have Denita or Denita, not 100% sure how you say her name. Again, we've had early information about her drop. I don't think it's anything reliable just yet, but I will say I'm not too much of a fan of her like design, and the maid outfit is not really selling me on anything either. But you know, undoubtedly a very nice looking character for sure. But I think Denita or Denita, I think she's just going down here. I'll probably only really be interested in her if she ended up working really well with someone else I was interested in. And so otherwise, not really that interested in looking to get her. And now we have Noi. I think this was definitely one of the most eye-catching characters for me. Maybe it's just the black and red, which I'm always a fan of. So interested to see what they end up doing with him. Like, and I really hope it's not an Alice situation where they just drop him and turns out he's not going to be playable. I think this guy is one of the most intriguing characters to me, and I feel like we know zero about him, but I think right now he's going in want for sure. I He's just looks really cool to me. Yeah, I'm just super interested to see what they actually do with him and like his kit. Mitya. So Mitya, I was really interested in Mitya from the preview. I thought Mitya looked really cool. I think any information about Mitya right now is probably extremely unreliable or just speculation. He does sort of give off a little bit of maybe like an electro vibe just by looking at him. But, you know, we can't just always guess the element they're going to be based off of their appearance. It doesn't always work like that. Another thing that really intrigued me was like kind of giving off like a scientist researcher sort of vibe, something similar to like Sucrose. He has like a representation of like an atom on his, like a decorative part of his outfit. He also had multiple different colors on his outfit that maybe could have symbolized like different elements. And for that reason, it's sort of leading me to believe he's maybe something like a Sucrose, maybe really strong 5-star support. But obviously, I'm just throwing, you know, shots in the dark here, right? I'm just guessing stuff. Either way, I liked his design. I liked his vibe. I thought he was cool. I think for now, he's a will pull if there is synergy. And I think he's going to be in the front. I'm going to say the order matters here. Now we have the Tsaritsa. I mean, I don't really know where else to put her except up here, right? Like, come on, it's the Tsaritsa. And now, I know I've said in the past that I really want the Tsaritsa to be a support. That's just because I like having more supports on my account than DPSs, but the Tsaritsa is like almost certainly a DPS. Her whole vibe just feels like a DPS, and she's got this sick pole arm that we saw in the preview. So think she's probably a DPS, like if I had to guess. Either way, I don't know what else like you could say about her. I mean, I'm gonna put her here. I still think I'm more intrigued by Odette right now just because she's coming sooner, but the Tsaritsa is obviously something I want to pull for sure. I don't know why Alice is up here, but you know, we can put Alice here if you want, just for fun. If Alice does end up coming out in Snezhnaya, I have no idea. I really thought Alice was going to be playable in Not Cry. It was really disappointing when we found out that she wasn't. I'm just going to put Alice, like, he'll pull if there's synergy. I don't know if Alice is going to come out. Where's Dane? Is Dane here? Guys, I don't think Dane is here. Okay, just imagine that Auroron is Dane. If Auroron was Dane, boom, want for sure. C6, R5, Dane sleeve. But jokes aside, I think this is a pretty good list. Alice is kind of here for memes. I have no idea if she's coming out in Snezhnaya. Oh, is Sandrone not even here? Anyways, I'm just going to take Columbina. Pretend this is Sandrone. I am interested in getting Sandrone on a rerun, for sure. I think this is a will pull if there's a synergy moment. Ends up working really well with some of these other characters, then yes. I mean, we know she's already going to work well with Odette. The problem being that Sandrone isn't going to rerun for a little bit, right? She's probably going to rerun at some point in Snezhnaya, obviously. But again, because I'm looking to be a little bit more vertical investment focused, if, let's say, for example, Vzna ends up being a carry and her vertical investment, like early vertical, looks pretty good, then I'm going to invest in her early vertical and probably not get Sandrone on a rerun, right? Because I do have to make a sacrifice somewhere because I do want to save to pull other characters like the Tsaritsa. So if I'm going to invest in early vertical on someone, it's probably going to be either someone like Vzna or maybe someone like the Tsaritsa if she ends up being like a really strong DPS. And if that ends up being the case, it might not be very good for me to go for Sandrone because it would probably just have a lot of overlap with either the Tsaritsa or Vzna, and I just don't really think as a free-to-play I can afford to do that. So unfortunately, I'd probably have to not get Sandrone on a rerun, even though I do want her. And that's gonna be it. That's my list. That's what I have planned for Snezhnaya. I will leave the tier maker link in the description if you want to do this for yourself for fun. Also, let me know in the comments who you're looking forward to, speculation about some other characters. Maybe you have different ideas about what Valerie is gonna do, different ideas about Mitya or Noi. Like, just let me know. What are your ideas? I'm very interested to hear like any speculation that you have. But yeah, if you made it this far in the video, you are a real one, and I will see you guys around. Bye bye.